Welcome to another episode of Fantastic Decks and How to Pilot Them. Hi, I'm Nick. I'm the humble host here, and we're going to be going over a really fun one today. It's going to be a deck build of Shadow the Hedgehog, a friend of mine built, and he wanted me to kind of give some tips and tricks on how to really tool it up. What's wrong with it? It doesn't seem to be playing as well as he would like, and so I'm going to put it on the channel. I'm going to show you guys what I'm doing with it. So without any further ado, here is his Shadow the Hedgehog build. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at how he built the deck, and we'll read the commander and then read all the cards, kind of go through the cards one by one, see what's good, bad, what we would like to have more of or less of, etc. So first off, Shadow the Hedgehog has haste, so it's black, black, red, red, with a legendary Hedgehog Mercenary, fun, with haste. When Shadow the Hedgehog or another creature you control with flash or haste dies, draw a card. Awesome. Each spell you cast has split second if mana from an artifact was spent to cast it. So nobody can counter your spells if you use artifact mana because they can't put anything on the stack after you've cast them, which is awesome. And so there's several different things that I noticed right off the bat with this deck that I think we want to call out first. First and foremost, 35 lands is low. Unless you're running a really low curve deck, or you're running CEDH with like lots of mana tutors, 35 is just a little too low, I think. In this day and age, you're just going to miss land drops, and if who cares if you get a ramp spell if you miss a land drop the next turn? You're still set back. You still have less or even mana, and you've used a turn to cast mana. You're actually still behind if you miss your land drop because you're behind the rest of what the table can cast. So that's first and foremost. And then, there's a lot of instants, and 22 creatures seems a little bit low for a creature-focused deck. So maybe there's a lot of token generation, we'll see. But I feel like if a deck is, benefiting you when creatures die, you need to have a lot of creatures so that they'll work. And so I'm going to go through these, and I'm going to touch on how I build this, and I'm going to show you guys my tags that I put into this deck so we can see what each thing falls into for different tags. So I've done these tags already before I started this video because I'm intelligent like that. And I have a few other thoughts on some other things that would be really helpful for this deck. Immediately, a few things stand out when I look at all of the different tags, which for this deck, I did. The main ones you have are card advantage, ramp, and removal. And then you've got a lot of other things that can be like synergy specific, in this case treasure generators, because he wanted to focus on treasures with the deck, and I can get that. They're artifact mana when you make treasures. And then I also put haste, because haste is a very specific thing, and same with flash, that synergize with the commander in addition to overall synergy. And the things that I notice right out of the gate, card advantage only has 6 cards. And I know, the commander has card advantage. You don't need as much card advantage. People are going to kill this commander a lot and aggressively. Like, this commander is any commander that draws you cards when you deal damage. People are going to be like, no, well, I'm going to incentivize you to not hit me. So you're not going to have your commander around. So you have to recast and recast and recast. You have to be able to either protect Shadow or have your plan work or be able to draw cards and do things without him. Yes, he's going to run the deck and he's going to be the linchpin, but you have to be able to be aware that he's going to be a magnet for removal, so you cannot depend on his card draw. If he just keeps getting killed, you're just out of luck. So, the card advantage being 6 is a little low. Ramp is at 11, but there's 15 treasure generators, so that's actually probably more than you need, honestly. We'll go through some more of those, but the big thing that stands out to me is you've got a lot of instant and sorcery removal, and you could just put that on creatures with haste or something like that. Or I just don't think in an aggressive deck, if you're like benefiting from hitting, so you swing at people with a hasty creature, you want it to die. Because if it dies, you've traded with them and drawn a card, most likely. Or if it didn't, you've got in for a bunch of damage. So you're wanting to be the aggressor in this deck. And 14 removal spells plays much more like a control deck that wants to win in the late game and build up a long, like strong board state and kill people off and kill their best pieces over and over until you can overall outvalue them. That's not how this deck appears to be playing, so this many removal spells is just a little too many. And so we're going to go through all the cards, and we're going to disable the tags. I'm going to go through one by one and talk about each of the cards that he's got in the deck and what my thoughts on those cards are, and if we should or shouldn't keep them, and then we can kind of skip past them and some of them because they're just good, and then we'll go to my updated build of this deck. So, Chandra Flameshaper, this one's 7 mana. The only thing that is even moderately relevant here is create a token that's a copy of target creature you control, except it has haste, and at the beginning of the end step, sack this token. That's fine. You can make a copy of a creature with haste that you then get to draw a card off of. But, like, it's 7 mana. Like, you should be... There's a card that I'm going to put in here later that you guys will see. The 7 mana, you should be winning the game with that level of mana. Like, this is, at best, you get one swing in with whatever your best creature is if it's not legendary, and you get a card out of it. I just don't see this card being that relevant. I don't think it's that good in the deck. Academy Manufacturer only does one thing, which is make more artifacts if you're making artifacts. So it is highly dependent on how the rest of your deck is built, but it is the best possible thing that you can have. I think it's probably the best single card in the game at just getting junk onto the battlefield. Like, it is incredible at the one thing it's good at. Ancient Copper Dragon with Academy Manufacturer is broken, but this card is also a $100 card, and I think he has one. I'm not going to like push new cards if he doesn't have it. This is obviously incredible. Any deck is making tokens, especially treasures. Put it in there if you got it. If you don't, it's more ancillary because it is 6 mana value. But it's $100 for a reason. Anger, fantastic in the deck. Just playing it and swinging, or you can find ways to sack it, get it in your graveyard. This card is incredible. Charming Scoundrel, hasty creature that also can make treasure tokens, perfect. Dualcaster Mage, flash creature, copies instants or sorceries, but like I said, your instants and your sorceries don't really seem to be too great in this deck. They're not something that I really want to copy that much. So Dualcaster Mage is iffy to me. You can copy other people's spells, sure, but like in general, you want to make sure you're able to copy your own if you really need to. And the instants and sorceries that I see in the deck are not stuff that I'm like, oh heck yeah, I want to spend 3 mana on my turn to make sure I can copy that. So he's a maybe. I don't really love him. Goldspan Dragon, flying hasty thing that makes tokens and makes tokens better, of course. Hellkite Tyrant, this is a fun win con in the deck, because this deck is making so many treasures and so many tokens, you actually might get to 20 to win with this. So this is actually a pretty good legit win con in the deck. Kellogg making treasures with haste and using those treasures for value, fantastic. Knuckles, another win con if you get 30 or more treasures, but then amps up how many you can make drastically, and he's a hasty creature, perfect for the deck. I don't like the UB cartoony stuff. Like, next year, the fact that we're doing, like, Star Trek and Ninja Turtles now and, like, Marvel superheroes, it just doesn't feel like Magic. I really, honestly, I don't like the UB sets nearly as much as the original stuff, especially ones that are cartoony. I really like Lord of the Rings. I like Final Fantasy, kind of. But, like, the more cartoon it gets, the more of a joke it seems like to me. Krinko Mob Boss, this is one of those cards that doesn't do anything if you don't already have something that it can work with. And it is a goblin. Yes, if you have haste things that make your whole board have haste, you can play it for 4 mana and tap it immediately. But even then, you're only making 1 goblin with haste that can swing and maybe die, but maybe people just take it, kill your Krinko, you get to draw 1 card, it's 4 mana. It just doesn't feel like it's as good in the deck if you don't have a lot of other goblins, and this deck doesn't have many other goblins. So I would cut this immediately. Lagomos makes a 2/1 with haste every turn that you automatically sack, so even if they take the damage, you're drawing a card off of it, and then you can tutor. It's fine, but it only makes 1 2/1. It doesn't synergize with treasure or artifacts. I can see keeping it or cutting it. It's just, I mean, it's good. It's just, there probably is better things for what you're trying to do here. Loyal Apprentice, this has haste and makes another one creature with haste, and makes another one with haste each turn that flies. So that the reason I like this one better than Logos, first off, 2 mana instead of 2 mana instead of 3, and 1 color instead of 2. It has haste itself, Logos doesn't, and the 1/1 Thopter has haste, so it's making 2 creatures with haste, and you keep the Thopter around to continually ping your opponents, and it makes an artifact, which also synergizes with your Goldspan and your Knuckles. So this is just all around much better, even though it looks very similar. I think Loyal Apprentice is much better. Mahadi, really good. You're going to be sacking your creatures all the time, and so you make a treasure for each creature that died this turn every end step. Fantastic. Mayhem Devil's a win con and a removal creature in the deck, but I've just put it in the win con category. You'll be making and sacking a ton of creatures and tokens in this deck. So anytime anybody sacks a permanent, you ping something. That's awesome. Mirkwood Bats, the same thing, but it's each opponent, and it's whenever you make or sacrifice a token. So Mirkwood Bats, also fantastic win con in this type of deck. Pitiless Plunder, you'd be making lots of tokens every time another creature you control dies. Not non-token. Every time any other creature you control dies, this thing makes you a treasure. Amazing. Professional Facebreaker, whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, make a treasure. Fantastic. And then it's card advantage because you can sack treasures to exile the top card of your library and play those cards. Fantastic card for this deck. It's perfect. Prompto's really, it looks on the surface like it's exactly what you want. It's a 2-mana 2/2 with haste, and whenever you cast a non-creature spell, if at least 4 mana was spent to cast it, you create a treasure token. Especially in the new build, after I've updated this, there's not very many non-creatures that are 4 mana or more to cast. So this turns into, and when I looked at this, I actually calculated all of these, it was only like 4, or I think it was 6 in the deck that you could trigger this with. There's 6 cards that would trigger Prompto. So like, it's a 2/2 with haste. It's basically all it will ever end up being, like all you can count on it being. So I would probably cut him. There's better 2/2s with haste. Squee, same type of thing. It's a 2/2 with haste. It makes a 1/1 red goblin, but that comes in tapped and attacking. It doesn't have haste. It comes in tapped and attacking. So it kind of like effectively has haste, and yeah, you can cast Squee from your graveyard by paying 3 and a red and exiling 4 other cards from your graveyard, which you might not all the time have. Just seems kind of mid at best. He's, I mean, fine in other decks, but just kind of mid for this one. And yeah, it synergizes with Krenko, but like, if you have to put stuff in here extra that doesn't work to make him work better, or to put this in to make Krenko work better, I just don't see it. I'd rather do more hasty creatures or token synergy, treasure token synergy. Urbrass, great. You get extra cards. Your opponents get less cards. Urbrass the Hidden, great. All your creatures have haste, slows your opponents down. Zorn, you're making treasures. You're just going to be making a lot of treasures, so you're making even more. Fantastic. This as an amplifier is great because this deck's going to be so centered around making treasures. Cool. Instant sorceries, Blasphemous Act. Sure, great. Brass's Bounty, make a lot of treasures. Awesome. Diabolic Tutor. I don't like the 4 mana tutors. Just not my thing. I mean, I think you're very rarely in this deck you want a low curve, and 4 mana, you're going to use your whole turn to go get a card for next turn. I'd rather just use 4 mana for the draw 3. Now you've got 3 more cards instead of just 1. Even if you get the exact silver bullet, if your deck's really synergistic, odds are one of the top 3 are going to be close, and then you'll be able to use the other 2 cards in addition. So I just don't like the tutors for 4 mana. Even the demonic tutor's fine. Grim Tutor's also in here. I just don't think that they're necessary, and then they add to a tutor count, which makes the deck like a 3. And I think we can honestly cut this down to a 2, technically, and it play really strong. So I would take the tutors out. Ever After doesn't really synergize with the deck. I mean, yeah, you might have some cards dying, but paying 6 mana to get 2 creatures back, like, just play another creature that, you know, does really synergistic stuff or really powerful stuff instead. Inspired Tinkering's fine. Feed the Swarm, good removal spell. Only one of the only ways to get rid of enchantments in Rakdos. Inspired Tinkering, fine. Exile top 3 until the end of your next turn. You may play those. It's essentially 5 mana, draw 3, make 3 treasure tokens, which is pretty good. So might be worth keeping in the deck. Risky Research. There's better card draw, better ways to draw cards. So I don't love that one. Vandal Blast is great. killing all your opponent's artifacts is amazing. Abrade, fine removal, nothing super flexible, but nothing special. Bedevil, fine removal, same thing. 3 mana, instant speed, fine. Big score. I don't like this spell. This is not card advantage, and I want to make sure like we look like in my tags. Card advantage is here. Big score is not card advantage. You have to play big score for 4 mana and discard another card. So at the beginning of your turn, you had 7 cards. You play big score, you're at 6. You discard another card, you're at 5. You draw 2, you're still at 7 cards. Same amount of cards you had at the beginning of your turn, and you're down 2 mana because you get 2 treasures. So it is filtering, and it can be good. I just don't really love them unless you're doing an instance or sorceries deck that is very interested in treasures. So I just don't think, I think they're a lot more niche than people think. People play these in every deck, like everything with red, and I think they're a lot more niche than that. I really don't think they're that great. They're okay, and they're really good in what they're good in, but I just don't, I'd rather have, there's a lot more creatures that you can make treasures with, and your commander pays you off so much more for having creatures, so let's just make more creatures. Same thing is with Unexpected Windfall. Chaos Warp, great. Removal spell. Dark Ritual, unnecessary. Like, you don't... Instants and sorceries, like, this is really only good in, like, Pinger decks where you're playing a lot of instants and sorceries. Just get a mana rock that you can use for artifact mana and tap that for mana consistently instead of just one time. And gives your stuff split second. Deadly Dispute, perfect for the deck. Sack a creature, draw 2 cards, make a treasure. And if the creature had haste or flash, you get 3. Yeah, fantastic. Lightning Bolt, always great. Pyroblast, really good for protecting or removing blue stuff. Rakdos Charm, I pretty much, if it has these colors, this deck, I've never drawn this card and not had a really good use for it. Like, I love Rakdos Charm, and if I'm playing Rakdos colors, the card should be in the deck in some capacity. Red Blast, same as Pyroblast, very good. Rowan's Grim Search, fine. It's, if you could sack a treasure, then you can do the filtering thing, so it can sack the tokens. I'd rather have different card draw. It's fine, and I wouldn't take it out if you need card advantage at all. It's still a very good card. It's not, incredible though. Shock is the worst. Lightning Bolt, don't love it. Terminate is good removal just in general. Spots Portal is good, but it's a debate between that and Withering Torment. This only targets creatures. Withering Torment doesn't, get rid of it for good if they have Graveyard Recursion. So it's kind of, pick your poison on those two, but they're both solid, but just a lot of removal. Arcane Signet, of course. Ashnod's Altar is really good in the deck because it gives you artifact mana and sacrifices your creatures, so you can sack Hasty Boys, draw cards, and get artifact mana to cast them with flash speed. Commander Sphere is fine at best. I'm kind of getting to where I don't really play this in many decks anymore. 3 mana ramp is just too slow, and the upside of drawing a card is only fine. Curse Mirror is great because you can make a hasty creature of any kind. Felwarstone, fine. Lightning Greaves, great because it gives anything you want haste for 0 mana. Mindstone, fine. Soul Ring, great, of course. Swiftfoot Boots, great protection and haste. Talisman, sure, yeah. Fire Crystal is one I wanted to talk about. Red spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Creatures you control have haste. So it gives everything haste and makes your red spells cost less. I looked at this deck earlier, and it has like 30 spells that you can cast with Fire Crystal. Because, even though Lightning Bolt's a red spell, it doesn't have one, you can't reduce the red pip. So it only has like 30 spells that you can actually cast in the deck with that. So that means 1/3 of your deck will find a use for this. So it's not as all-encompassing as you would think. It's probably still worth a spot because it gives everything haste. It lets you make 6 mana, make a token with haste that then sacks at the end step. So it is probably still worth it because it does so many things, but it's a little overcosted at all of them, and it's not quite as auto-include as you think. I just wanted to call that out. Same thing here with Reaver Cleaver. If this card lands, this card is absurd. But 3 mana to play it, 3 mana to equip it to a creature, and then somebody's going to let that creature hit you for what? Because it only gets +1/+1 and trample. Especially with Shadow, it would make Shadow a 5/3, people are going to have a 3 damage blocker. They are going to block him. Yeah, you'll get 2 or 3 treasures off of it, but then you have to re-equip your Reaver Cleaver. And 6 mana to play and equip. If you want to play it, it's fine. It's better in equipment decks, and I think that it's better if you can get around that equip cost. And there's no reason to play like equipment reducers for just this equipment. So I'm kind of off of Reaver Cleaver for this deck, even though it does seem to synergize really well. It's really, really, I feel like a little more difficult than you would think to get that going. Thought Vessel, great if you draw enough cards. Urbrass Forge is probably good enough. It makes a hasty token that you have to sacrifice. Vidalcan Ori is also great. I wanted to address this though, because you can cast non-land cards as though they had flash. It does not give them flash. So if you have, for instance, Zorn, and no things on the battlefield that give all your creatures haste, and somebody like goes to board wipe and you're just like, I've got plenty of treasures, I just need cards. If you flash out Zorn, he does not have flash, so it won't board wipe, kill your Zorn, and then you draw a card for it. Like Vidalcan Ori is as though they had flash. So I just want to point that out. It's a bit of a non-bow. It still lets you split second with artifact mana like crazy. You can split second your creatures now with treasure mana or whatever else. So it is very, very good in the deck, but I did want to call it out. It does not work quite the way you may think it works. And then, of course, Rising of the Day, all your creatures have haste. Great. Awesome. So then your 35 lands. So this is good, but not as good as I would have hoped it would be. There's definitely several things I could see cutting and adjusting to make this thing hum a lot easier. It's a fine deck the way that it is, and it probably will play okay if you're not land screwed on the 35 lands. But there's ways to make this a lot more synergistic and hum a lot better. And we're going to go through some of the things that we're going to look at for how we're going to add this. Card advantage, definitely adding more card advantage is going to be one of them. Even if Shadow helps you draw cards, adding more ways to draw more cards is always going to be beneficial. Treasure generators, I think if we're going to lean into treasure generators, you're going to have Academy Manufacturer in the deck. We're going to lean in hard. Like 15 is not enough. If you're going to lean into that side of things, and there's ways to do more of that and have plenty of haste while also cutting stuff that's just not needed, like the extra removal spells. 14 is just too many for a deck that's trying to be aggressive and swing with hasty creatures and let them die. You just really don't need 14 removal spells. It's going to play a lot more like a control deck. So I think we're going to cut some of the removal, add some more haste, some more treasures, and some more card advantage to really get the deck to hum, and maybe another win con or two to really make it easier to make sure you get where you're trying to go. But yeah, super excited about it. Let's see what we do after we tool this thing up. Okay, this is my new tooled up version of the Shadow the Hedgehog build. I know, I'm really, really, really quick at this. It's incredible. We have drastically increased our creature count. And we reduced our instants and sorceries. We kept our artifacts a decent amount, and we've added 2 extra lands. We added an enchantment or so. So this way we've cut, and I put, so you can see this, I'll enable the tags, but the sideboard are the 18 cuts that we made, and then the added are the 16 new cards that we added, plus 2 lands. We're at 37 lands. So I'm going to go through the new cards that we added, or I'm going to start with the cards that we cut, because some of these you guys are going to disagree with me on. Sorry. Tell me in the comments how bad I'm terrible at my job or whatever, and I'll tell you that I appreciate the feedback because it's helping my follower engagement count. Yay! Sideboard cuts are the first thing I cut. I'm just gonna go in order. Abrade is fine. We have better removal spells and don't need as many. Same with Bedevil. Big Score, I talked about it earlier. We don't really necessarily want the 4 mana. Same with Unexpected Windfall. We don't want the 4 mana non-creature spells. We've got other ways to make treasures. Chandra, 7 mana. I'll talk about Depth Shaker Titan later. Chandra is just nowhere near worth it for 7 mana when you compare to what that thing does. Commander Sphere, fine. Not as good as other ramp spells. We're making so many treasures, we don't need 3 mana ramp. Dark Ritual just doesn't fit. Diabolic Tutor, same thing. I talked about the tutors. Ever After doesn't really fit that great. Same with the tutors. Krenko, he could be really good if you have enough of the things, but you just don't have enough of the things to make him awesome. And like he's going to be a magnet for removal, and it's going to feel bad if you like spend your turn if you draw that and don't have a haste enabler, or you like you're kind of already behind and this is your big play and you play Krinko and it has to wait to get to your turn and then goes all the way around, you tap it, make one goblin, and yeah, it just doesn't seem like that the Krinko's where it's at. Logomos I cut. I could see keeping Logomos because he makes a 2/1 with haste every turn that you have to sack so you could draw the card if you've got your commander out. But I think there's better ways to do that, and I think we added a lot more better cards than Logomos. Same with Prompto. We took out a bunch of the instants and sorceries and non-creatures, especially the 4-mana ones, so he's just not really going to trigger. He's a 2/2 haste, and we can do better. Risky Research, fine card advantage, but we've got better card advantage, just didn't really need it. Shock is an underpowered removal spell. Squeeze, like, not as good at the hasty thing as other cards. Reaver Cleaver we talked about, just the blowout potential for Reaver Cleaver is way too high. People are going to kill whatever you try and put this on, so it just isn't going to end up being worth it most of the time. Spots Portal was the removal spell I chose over that and the other enchantment black removal, the Withering Torment, but you could pick either one, and then we talked about Windfall. So with what we added, this is going to be the fun part. So I want you guys to check out what these cards are and what they do, and then pick on me for the ones that I left out, because there are going to be ones that everybody's going to see that I left out that are very good. And you could build this deck so many different ways. So like, if you hate me because I left out your pet card, sorry. Just yell at me in the comments. I will tell you why, or just tell you that I forgot it because I have ADHD. So Atsushi, the Blazing Sky. Flying Trample 4/4, doesn't have haste. We've got a bunch of ways to give haste to your whole board, but if he dies, you've got card advantage or treasure tokens. He's amazing for this deck. Just give him haste and you automatically get extra card advantage or treasures and cards. Perfect. Captain Lannery Storm comes with haste. When she attacks, you make a treasure token, so that's great. And then whenever you sack a treasure, she gets +1/+0 till end of turn. So she can trade up. She can block. Like, she's just all around really good for what this deck's trying to do. Depth Shaker Titan, this is what I talked about earlier, is one of my favorite new pet cards. It came out in the Edge of Eternity set in one of the precons, and it is awesome. And in this deck, when you're building so many treasures and other things, this deck does everything you want to do and then some. It's 7 mana, so the same as Chandra. So Chandra, you can make a copy of one of your creatures with haste that'll die that turn. That's basically the best thing you can do with Chandra for 7 mana. For 7 mana with Depth Shaker Titan, when it enters, any number of non-creature artifacts you control become 3/3 artifact creatures. Sack them at the beginning of the next end step. So all your treasures and all your like food or whatever else, anything that you're making, any number of non-creature artifacts become 3/3s. So basically most of your board. You can have 20, 30 of these if you want. And then each artifact creature you control has melee, trample, and haste. So when you do sack them, if Shadow's out, you draw cards for them. And melee means that for each player that you attack, they get +1/+1. So if you swing at all 3 players, now you're swinging with all of your treasures are 6/6 trample haste creatures that die at the end of a turn into cards. This should win you the game on the spot, and if it doesn't, you just draw a ridiculous amount of cards for it. Like, this card is insane in this deck. It's everything you want. And like when you compare that to Chandra, it's like, okay, yeah, I can see why you cut Chandra. I hope so. You know, obviously with Chandra, you're like, oh, well, you copy the Depth Shaker Titan. How many 7 mana spells do you want in a like aggressive treasure deck? So that's my thought on this. I love this, and I wouldn't go many, like, I wouldn't keep many top end spells like at this mana value. I just continue to play more spells. Enterprising Scallywag, the beginning of your end step, if you descended this turn, if any permanent left the battlefield, so you sack a treasure, you get a treasure every turn, or every one of your turns. It's just really good. 2 mana creature, always makes you a treasure. Really good for the deck. Evan Waterdeep Opportunist, this was a little expensive, but it's got Ward Sack a creature, which is great. It gets +2/+0 for each treasure you control, so this thing should be like a 16/4, like, with Menace, pretty much as soon as you play it. And whenever anybody sacrifices any creatures, you get a treasure token. So if they even go to target it, you just get a tap treasure, and it gets bigger. So it's, yeah, it's really, really, really good in this deck. And then we also added Rankle and Torbran and Rankle, which both of those make 3 players sack a creature. So with Evan out, this thing is, yeah, you get paid off big with those two. Fake Your Own Death is a decent protection spell that makes a treasure. So definitely think it's worth adding a Fake Your Own Death in. Fervor, another haste enabler for the entire board. Greedy Freebooter. When it dies, you scry 1 and make a treasure token. This is just really good for the deck. Impulsive Pilfer. Let me get on Impulsive Pilfer. Pizza time. Guys, I have a confession. That whole time I was talking to you guys a second ago, there was a pizza in the oven. My house smells like smoke, and I'm eating this cheeseburger instead. Impulsive Pilfer is fantastic for this deck. And if you look at it, it doesn't seem that great. Okay, cool, it's a 1/1 that dies into a treasure token with Encore 3, sure. Then think about the Encore is you pay 4 mana, exile it from your graveyard, make 3 1/1s with haste that attack and auto-sack. So even if they don't block them, they die into 3 treasures and 3 cards. So it's 4 mana, draw 3, make 3 treasures at minimum on a 1/1 body that you also get the 1 treasure out of earlier. This is a great card for the deck. Impulsive Pilfer is fantastic. Kalain Reclusive Painter makes all of your creatures, if you spend a treasure to cast them, it makes them bigger. Great. Lock helps you actually draw extra cards if you somebody exiles a land card. It's card advantage, even though it's from other people's decks. You get a lot of cards out of Lock, and he makes treasures pretty consistently. Almost every time you're swinging at a table, somebody's going to hit a land. It's usually a third of their deck. Magda is fantastic for the deck, but not for her treasure generation. In fact, you probably don't have ways to tap her, and I don't even think there's any other dwarves or changelings in the deck. But some of the best cards in the deck are your Goldspan Dragon, your Ancient Copper Dragon, Atsushi maybe. Depth Shaker Titan is an artifact creature which Magda can find. Search for a library for an artifact or dragon card, put it onto the battlefield. So you should just sack 5 treasures and go get a Depth Shaker Titan or Hellkite Tyrant on somebody's instep. So if you've got a ton of treasures, like honestly, Depth Shaker Titan, if it's on your turn and you can just play Magda, sack 5 treasures, and now turn the 10 that you've got into 6/6s, that's game. But if you've got 25 or 30 because you've been building them up and just like holding off everybody all game, then okay, cool. Magda, sack on instep, get a Hellkite Tyrant, just win the game. It's really, really, really a good card for the tutor ability, and because it also does make treasures. So that's why I think Magda's absolutely worth an include. Mastermind Plum's also absolutely just spectacular in this deck. When he attacks, exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard. So there's not much graveyard hate in the deck, so that's good. And if that was an artifact card that you exiled, you make a treasure. Sweet, awesome. That by itself is probably almost worth an include, but I wouldn't have included it on just that. However, also when you cast a spell, if mana from a treasure was spent to cast it, you draw a card and lose a life. So it's just with those, either of those abilities might have made it worth it for 3 mana, and you get both on the same card. He's incredible. Rankle and Torbran's also fantastic in the deck, especially with Evan when he's got ward sack a creature, or when any other players sacrifice 1 or more creatures, you make a tap treasure. And then Rankle and Torbran, it has flying, first strike, and haste, so just on its face, it's gonna have haste and be able to probably hit somebody. And whenever it hits somebody, each player does these 3 things. Make any number of these 3 things. So you can do all 3, 2 of the 3, whichever is most convenient for you. Make a treasure token. So sure, you ramp the table a little bit, but you get better use out of your treasures. Each player sacrifices a creature. You can sack this one, then they all sack something. And then if a source would deal damage to a player battle this turn, it deals that much damage +2 instead. If you just happen to be swinging with this and the Depth Shaker Titan, then all of a sudden those 6/6s become 8/8s. But like also, even outside of that, this thing first strikes first, and then later that turn, anything that hits on the second combat gets +2 to their damage. And you can choose any number of these, but they're all good for your deck. And so highly recommend, and it synergizes really well with Evan. It makes treasures. It also has haste. It's just really, really good synergy piece in the deck. Same with Rankle. He's 4 mana. Make everybody discard a card, make everybody sacrifice a creature, and draw a card. Is basically like all it amounts to. As long as everybody doesn't have flying blockers, you can hit any one person, and it's like everybody sacks a creature, everybody discards a card, and you draw a card. I think it's pretty good. And then when you sack him, you draw. That's why you also draw a card from him. So even if you don't choose each player loses a life and draw a card because you don't want them to have the card advantage, you're still only down the discard because you just sack the Rankle or one other random creature you have, and you draw a card from them having haste. So fantastic card in the deck as well. Seize the Spotlight is one that a lot of people like. It's becoming more and more. I think that's why the price is going up. I didn't even realize how much it is because I love this card. I think it's a pet card of mine. I have it in my Winota deck because usually it just gives me extra Winota triggers even if I don't have enough creatures. I can usually people don't want me to draw a card and lose a life, but it's a debate because if they don't do that, then they have to give me a creature, and usually I can turn that into an extra Winota trigger, which they definitely also don't want me to have. But in this deck, it does something similar where usually people would just give you the creature for a turn, but with as many sack outlets as you have in the deck, a lot of times that means you're getting their creature with haste, swinging at somebody, and then sacking it and drawing a card off of their creature, so you're killing their creature and drawing a card. So they don't want you to do that, so most of the time, this is 3 mana, draw 3, make 3 treasures. Like, it's going to be fantastic in this deck. So that's the build. That's all of the different things that I added in and what I took out. I did add the 2 mountains to make it a little bit easier to make sure you hit your red land drops. I am still at 37 lands, so Rachel Weeks would probably want to kill me and tell me that I'm, not doing it right. She wouldn't want to kill me. She's very nice. She's very sweet. Love Rachel to death. But I did want to also touch on some of these considering cards. Treasure Vault. I love this card. I put it in considering because I didn't even want to add it in, but I want to call it out because it's another artifact land, which also helps with your artifact counts, and with Depth Shaker Titan, that can turn it into a 3/3 with melee, etc. But it's colorless, and this deck is pretty heavy on the color requirements with the red, black commander. Like, you draw a lot of cards, so I do like having the Thought Vessel, but most of the other ramp I don't want to be colorless ramp. And you're really limited on what colorless lands that you can afford to run in the deck. Like, because you just really can't afford to miss playing Shadow on time or really shortly thereafter. And if you have 2 or 3 colorless lands and you have 2 in your opener, like Reliquary Tower is fine, but I'm honestly debating on that or the Treasure Vault. I wouldn't put very many colorless lands in this deck just because of the color requirements. So that's why I was debating on adding that one. But it's worth calling out as an artifact land. Descent into Avernus is too expensive. These are all expensive cards that are obviously better than most of the other stuff I would have put up here. But I don't want to like say, hey, to make this deck function, you've got to play these expensive cards. Because they're probably, objectively better for the deck, but it'll function fine without them. But if you want to put them in, please do. Descent into Avernus is fantastic. It's just super fun. Makes games way faster. And in this deck, you're making tons of treasures and pinging the board while you've got a ton of hasty creatures. That's just a recipe for a really quick, fun game. Grim Hireling, of course, making extra treasures. Anytime a creature deals combat, you make 2. If it deals combat to an opponent, that's going to be, somebody blocks your creature and kills it, you make a treasure, or you draw a card, or if they don't, you get 2 treasures. It's just like a rock and a hard place. Such a good card in the deck, but it's $17, $18. Phyrexian Altar is like an $80 card, and it's worth it. It's a really, really good sack outlet for colored mana, so you can sack a creature, draw a card, make colored mana. It's incredible, but $80. Revel in Riches, again, $25. Another better win con probably than your other, like Hellkite Tyrants or whatever else. But $25, I didn't want to force, say you have to play that. Same with Warren Soul Trader. You sack creatures to make treasure tokens, which sounds like it's exactly what this deck really wants. But it's $18. So again, if you don't have the money to pay for those, you don't need them. They will help, but they're not must includes or the deck won't function. Alright guys, I made a few additional changes to the deck I wanted to highlight just because after playtesting it, like you guys saw, it doesn't really have the punching power that I wanted and wasn't as fun as I had liked, or as I thought would be great. Didn't really have the right win cons, so Made some changes, done some play tests, and this I think works substantially better. So let's go into the added round 2 tags, and you can see Ardaz Cobbler of War. It's a hasty 1/1, not great, but when it or another creature enters a battlefield under your control, that creature gets +2/+0 till end of turn. So this just adds damage quick. You can make a 1/1 with haste, with a bunch of extra mana, but this is just a really good way to add damage quickly. Enduring Courage does the exact same thing. It just also gives the creatures haste. Ardaz does not give them haste, but with as many haste enablers as you have in the deck, that's not going to be a problem. Enduring Courage gives them haste and the +2/+0, and then if it dies, it comes back to the battlefield. So great all around. Eviscerator's Insight is just really good card draw that you can also sack treasures to, and you can flash it back. So it helps, synergize with if you're sacking creatures to draw cards, you get a third card if they have haste or flash. And if not, you just use flashback or you just sack an artifact. You're going to have plenty of treasures running around in this deck. Jaxus, I'm honestly can't believe I forgot to put Jaxus in the first round of this. And honestly, as I'm thinking about this, I'm about to actually also go add another card here, Prosper Tomebound. Because even though, so he's $8, and he's untagged here, we're gonna put him in basically everything because he has. We're gonna added round 2. He is ramp because he makes treasures. Actually, not ramp. He's because treasures aren't specifically included in the ramp category, but he is card advantage, and he also is a treasure generator, and he's one of the best at doing both. So basically, I'm going to add him there as well. So we've got 9, and then what am I going to take out for Prosper? I think you want a critical mass of artifact producers. Enterprising Scallywag, I play tested this a couple times. He's fine. He's not really great. He just adds treasures. He's a 2/2 that doesn't do anything else and just adds treasures. I'm going to take Scallywag out, and we'll see what happens with that. But Ardaz, Enduring Courage, Eviscerator's Insight, Logamos, and then Jaxus. Jaxus is fantastic because at her floor, you pay 2 mana. She's a 2/3 haster with Shadow out. And then she dies, draws you a card from her Blitz ability and from Shadow's ability. That's like the floor. At the ceiling, like I was playtesting this a minute ago, I had an Ancient Copper Dragon out, and I used 3 mana to cast Jaxus with Blitz, tap it to make a copy of the Ancient Copper Dragon that has haste and dies into a card, and then swing with that one. And so basically Jaxus and the second Ancient Copper Dragon both died and got me a card, and I made like 26 treasures that turn. It was absolutely insane. So this has a very high ceiling and a high floor. Fantastic card for the deck. Logamos, I was wrong about him. I have to admit it. Like the consistency of having the Urabrask's Forge or Loyal Apprentice that just makes a hasty token every turn is. I was underrating how valuable that is in this deck. That's really, really good and definitely deserves a spot in the deck. Marionette Apprentice, great card in the deck just to help increase the speed to death for your opponents, basically. Just by doing what you're doing. When another artifact, a creature or artifact, is put into the graveyard from the battlefield from your control, each opponent loses a life. Just speeds up the game drastically for 2 mana, and she makes a little servo herself. Then Prosper, we talked about card advantage and making a treasure token. Great. Rakdos Signet, I subbed out the Thought Vessel and another ramp, another 2 mana rock, because you need the colors really bad in this deck. Reckless Fireweaver also just continues to deal damage as you're doing what your deck's already going to be doing. So those are the cards that I added, and we took out Dualcaster Mage. There's just not enough instants or sorceries. It's probably good in the deck, but it's just not as good as some of the other things we pulled. Fellwar Stone, this is the other one that like doesn't consistently tap for either color. You're not always going to be playing a red or black deck. So I'd rather have the Signet to make sure I hit my colors. Greedy Freebooter, good in the deck, but not great. It's just fine. And so I'd rather have stuff that I know is, going to be doing a really good job all the time. Inspired Tinkering, is really good, but 5 mana, non-creature, makes treasure tokens and gives you some card advantage, but like it's kind of churning your wheels and doesn't really lead you there. For 5 mana, I really would want more for 5 mana. Like Prosper Tomebound's 4 mana, if that gives you any insight. Rankle, the Rankle and Torbrand is 5 mana. Like, that's the kind of stuff that really drive the game to a conclusion, and, you know, the Inspired Tinkering doesn't. I pulled Kalane as well. Kalane or Kalane, it's fine. It spots you a treasure, and then your other creatures, if you cast them with treasures, get 1/1 counters. But you kind of want your creatures to be dying, so making them bigger makes them harder to die, and you don't get extra cards, and you're kind of, I don't know. It's kind of push and pull. It is pretty good in the deck, but it's not as good as some of the other stuff. So we got to pull something. So that was one of them. We also pulled Thought Vessel and the Withering Torment because, again, you're wanting to be aggro, you're wanting to push damage, and play to the board. So just specifically only removing your opponent's stuff isn't necessarily what the deck's trying to do. So we're going to try and do another play test here and see what happens. We have 3 lands, a Feed the Swarm, a Knuckles, and a Chaos Warp, and a Mayhem Devil. Mayhem Devil's a very good card, but these don't... We're going to keep it because I think this is better than an average hand. You might find some better than this, but we'll see what we draw. Urbrask's fine. It's a little later, but yeah, not what I wanted to see here, but we'll go ahead and play Lava Claw Reaches. Go to turn 2. Play the Command Tower, and don't need to Feed the Swarm, don't need a Mayhem Devil, anything, so let's just go ahead and pass this one. Go to turn 3. Wish we had Marionette Apprentice last turn. Because now we want to play the Mayhem Devil. We can double spell with that, hold up or use Feed the Swarm later if we want to. I think we do want to go ahead and get out the Mayhem Devil now, just because we don't have much else to do on 3, and I'd rather do that than make the 1/2. Both of them are good. This is just, I think, more efficient use of your mana here. So now we've got a Swamp, we have red, we can't have enough to play Shadow or Knuckles. We also have the Chaos Warp. Mayhem. We don't have anything else to use the Mayhem Devil on. So I think at this point, it's probably just Knuckles. People won't be, turn 4, 3/3, you may be able to get in with a 3/3. We probably could get in on somebody with Knuckles. So swing the Knuckles, and you probably make 2 treasures. So, and then they take 4. And now you have treasures that you can use to ping stuff with Mayhem Devil to do other things. So, we'll go to the next turn. So now we've got a different Urabrask. This one is fine. I think this one's probably better than this one, just because it gives you the haste that you need for your commander. I think you want to get out your commander soon, though. Yeah, let's go ahead, play this Swamp. I think let's go ahead and... Yeah, let's play Shadow for all of this mana. And then we have this haste Knuckles. Again, we have the treasures here that if somebody blocks, we can sack both of these for mana and ping their thing. Yeah, we lose the treasures, but we don't lose our Knuckles, and he will double strike and give them the mana back. So most likely there's somebody that you'll still be able to get the double strike in on. And then we add 2 more treasures for our trouble. And so now we have the 4 treasures, and we have Marionette Apprentice, Urabrask. There's different things that we could cast at this point. I think we do want to go ahead and get Urabrask Heretic Praetor out, because now this allows us to start, if we do, it gives us extra card advantage per turn. But we also have Urabrask the Hidden, so that means that anything that we have that we play from here on out has haste regardless. Yeah, I think we go ahead and play the Praetor, because we want that extra card. We don't have any lands in hand. We don't want to miss our land drop. So we tap that, and then we sack each of these to cast it. And then that will be 4 pings from Mayhem Devil. And then we move to our next turn. Open, get a land, and then see at the beginning of your upkeep. All right, so it doesn't matter because they're both mountains, but one's exiled, one's in my hand. All right, so then I'll play 1 mountain for turn. Now, I think we play the Marionette Apprentice for 2. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We don't have anything else enough to cast Urabrask the Hidden this turn, but she makes a servo. So I think we want to put the servo out instead of give her a counter. And then I think we don't have any way to swing in at this point, so I don't think we want to swing with anything else. Maybe with the Heretic Praetor Urabrask, because we do want to make sure that we get the Knuckles treasures if we can. So I'd probably do that. And then see if he dies. I'm going to assume that he dies at this point, and then we will draw a card for our trouble, which Ancient Copper Dragon, love to see it. So he doesn't hit, but we do draw the card because he has haste. And now everybody's going to be worried about Knuckles, and rightfully so, but we've got some other stuff that is more interesting. And I think here, we'll just assume that we had to use this Chaos Warp in between now and our next turn. Then we will draw a card for our turn. And now, let's play this mountain. And we can't cast the Ancient Copper Dragon and swing with it this turn, because we don't have enough mana to do Urabrask with haste. So I think playing the Urabrask now is what we want to do. And then feed the Swarm. We'll assume we had to feed the Swarm somebody's thing. And now we have 2 mana left over. Nothing really to do with that. I don't think we're going to have free swings at this point or a way to swing at this point. But creatures your opponents control entering tap does slow your opponents down at this point. And then now we can go to our turn 8, which is going to be probably a big turn. Oh my god. Do we have the mana to do this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We don't. Holy shit, that would be insane. If we could do Zorn, oh, it's just +1. So never mind. It's not as good. That's fine. It would be insane if it was double. It's not double. So we're just gonna play Ancient Copper Dragon and pray that we can hit with it. Now we swing with Knuckles. Ancient Copper Dragon, we swing with the Marionette Apprentice, we swing with Servo. Don't swing with the Mayhem Devil. We probably also swing with Urabrask and Shadow because our hand is running a little low. So we want to make sure that if we hit with Ancient Copper Dragon, which we should, somebody's going to have the air open. We get all of these treasures, and everybody can't block everything that's coming in. And for everything that they do kill, when they block it, we draw cards, and everything they don't kill, we make treasures. So this is a win-win for us, just to swing with almost everything. So we'll say we hit with Ancient Copper Dragon, and then, which actually I don't think I would. I actually don't think I'd swing Marionette Apprentice, because then we might actually just win. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's assume Knuckles. Let's say Knuckles is probably going to get killed. They don't want Ancient Copper and Knuckles on the battlefield. Shadow gets killed. We'll put him in the command zone. Urabrask doesn't. He connects. And then the Servo, that thing's dead. So we have 3 creatures that died with haste. So we draw 3 cards. And then we have Ancient Copper Dragon and Urabrask that hit. And so we add 2 treasures for those 2. Oh, nope. Add token, treasure. I hit the wrong. Add token, treasure. Hit the wrong thing. Now we copy that one. And now we'll pull up our fun D&D dice roller. I was doing this just in case. 12. Okay, we make 12 treasures with our Ancient Copper Dragon. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And now we have those 12 treasures. We've drawn those 3 cards. We still have basically, So I played the Ancient Copper Dragon this turn, I think. Yeah. So now we have those 12 treasures. Those cards have died. For every one of those that we sack, each opponent loses 1 life. And I can ping something. So we're looking at 24 damage to one opponent, 12 to another opponent. Minimum. And so that's why this deck is like gets crazy. So then there's not too much else that we can do with those. I think we just recast Shadow, probably. Yeah, we probably just recast Shadow here. And then yeah, Urbrask is still on the battlefield. And so yeah, if we recast Shadow, I think then we sack a bunch of them probably. We don't want to kill our own Ancient Copper Dragon, which would be funny, but to draw 1 card. But I don't think we want to do that. We might want to kill Zorn though. So let's play 3. So that's 1, 2, 3. And then use 2 of those pings to ping Zorn. So he'll go to the graveyard. He has haste because of Urbrask, so I draw a card. Not what I wanted. If it was something that was like a win con where another one of these guys, that might have just been it. We might have been able to do enough to sack them and win the game. But we just hold, everybody hostage with these. With the Marionette Apprentice, we sack them all. We probably actually sack 5 to go ahead and Vandal Blast, depending on how bad everybody else's board state is. And then sack some others to play Fervor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So yeah, so let's do the rest of these. So then we've got 4 left, and those 8, and then we'll just move to next turn. Soul Ring, sure. All of your creatures have haste with Shadow, so now at this point the Soul Ring's kind of irrelevant. You play Darksteel Citadel for the extra artifact. And then swing your Ancient Copper Dragon again. Let's do another D&D dice roll. This is going really high mid, which is great, but that's 16 more treasures, so I think at this point you just sack them and win the game. But yeah, that's how the deck plays. Let me know what you guys think. If there's cards that I'm missing that you think are just like absolute studs, have to put this card in the deck, why would you not think of that? Let me know. Give me some comments on things that I might be missing or other synergy pieces that would work with this that maybe I didn't think of. Love to hear your comments. Love to hear what you guys think, and I really appreciate the time, guys.